Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Michelle, and today we're going to be talking about some fun things that you can do with your kids. If you're interested, keep on watching. Okay, so if you're anything like me, you're always looking for new things to introduce to your child or your children, and it can be a task, especially when they're older, because you've basically done most things with them. I know for me, we've went to the park a million times, we've rode the bike a million times, we went to so many places in our area. So sometimes looking for new things to keep my 8-year-old interested is a task. So I was thinking the other day about fun things that parents can do with their children. And so I wrote it down in my notebook, and I was saying this would be a great video for YouTube, because I know that I'm not the only parent who is wondering what to do with their kids, especially now because of quarantine. I live in New York. A lot of places are opening up, but there's still a lot of restrictions depending on where you are. I know if you're in the South, the conditions are a little bit worse. People are quarantining much more than they are here in New York. So I know that there's parents out there that are trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my child, my children? I've done everything. So here are some tips that I have for you. Okay, so the first thing is to take your kids outside. I said before that I've taken my daughter to the park millions of times, but I know with this new age, there's a lot of kids who don't go outside as much. I know that they, are more attracted to playing on the video game, being on the iPad, watching Netflix, watching YouTube. So take your child outside. If they're not a child that goes outside, and even if they are a child that goes outside, going outside is always good. They can walk around, they get fresh air. Maybe to spice up the walk or their time outside, you can have them ride their bike, do some roller skating or skateboard if they're into that, or a scooter. I don't know if kids are really into scooters anymore, but that's always something fun to introduce to them. If your child is younger, you can do bubbles with them. Little children always love bubbles. They love popping bubbles. You can create a game to see how many bubbles they can pop. You can have them do chalk and do beautiful drawings on the sidewalk. I know younger children always love to do that. You can have your child do jump rope. My daughter's 8 years old, and she's still interested in that. So maybe if you have a child who's 8 years old, or maybe even 9 years old, because she's going to turn 9 soon in October, around that age group and younger, you can order a jump rope for them to just, see how many times how fast they can jump, how long they can jump. If they have both siblings, challenge each other and see who can jump the longest. Or if they're not interested in jumping, and you can have them race each other. You can join in on the race. That's always fun to see if mommy can outrun us, or daddy can outrun us. You can show your kids that, I may be older than y'all, but I'll still beat y'all butts. So that's always fun. So yes, take your kids outside. You don't have to leave. You don't have to go to a park. You don't have to go somewhere far. This can be right if you have a little area in front of your house or in the back of your house. I live in a building, so in the back of my building, there's a little area that I always bring my daughter, and it's secluded from everyone, because we still want to think about COVID, and we don't really want to be in places where too many people are gathering. We want our space. So if you do have an area in front and back, or wherever, even if there's maybe an area up the block where kids can just play, that would be great. So number 2, so if you did all the things that I mentioned in my first suggestion, my second suggestion is to find places that are safe to go. Take your kids out, take them out of the house for a little while. Like I said before, here in New York, a lot of restrictions have been lifted. We're still social distancing. Well, I am. Me and my family are. We're still, and a lot of families as well, we're still social distancing, but there's a lot of places opening. So if you're here in New York, you can still go to the zoo. The zoo is open. I took my daughter last week for Labor Day. There's a few drive-in movie theaters. If you don't live in New York as well, these suggestions are for anyone. Soon, pumpkin patches and apple picking will be open. So that's another fun place to take your child. I know the beach is still open. It's getting a little chilly here in New York, but the beach is still open here. You can go and just have lunch with your child or your children and watch the water if it's too cold to get in. I know in other places you guys are still experiencing hot weather, so go to the beach. You can take your kids to the beach, have a fun beach day. You can go to the park. If you don't take your children to the park often, you can take them to the park. The park is always fun. Being on those swings, seeing how high you can go, sliding down those tall slides always gets children in a fun mood. So the park is always fun. Also look for places in your area that are open, maybe some indoor places that are following the COVID-19 guidelines. And if you feel comfortable, then you can take your children there. So to recap, number 2 is to find places outside of your neighborhood to go to, getting the kids out of the house for a few hours. Number 3, playing games. This is something that you can never go wrong with. Like I said before, these new age kids, and I'm sounding like an old person and I'm not that old, but this new generation, this younger generation, they're very into playing online games, video games, watching YouTube videos. But playing games is something that will always be fun. So what I mean by games is bringing back the old school. I'm telling you, the hide and seek, the red light, green light, 1, 2, 3, board games. I know that I've tried to introduce a lot of board games that I played as a child to my daughter, and she really enjoyed it. I'm talking about Candyland, Uno, Break the Ice, Bop It, Guess Who, Connect 4. I've introduced her to so many things and she's enjoyed it so much. So bringing back the old school games. And you know what? Now that a lot of children aren't doing these games, these are stuff that they don't know about. So this would be so great to introduce to your child or your children. They would have so much fun, and you would have so much fun too. I enjoy playing these old games and beating my daughter and winning. I'm sorry, she gets upset when I win, but we have such a blast. So bringing back the old games. I ordered a lot of the games that I have from Amazon before Toys R Us sadly closed. I got a few of them, but they have them all on Amazon, or just Google. I'm sure whatever game you put in the search bar, they'll show you all the stores that sell those games. So number 3, a recap for number 3 is play games, bring back the old school, and just have a blast with your kids. Okay, the last one, watch movies and TV shows. So this one is kind of similar to number 3, just because I wrote down that parents, you can introduce old movies, old TV shows that you used to watch as a child to your kids. I've introduced a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows. So I was born in the 90s, 95. So I grew up in the early 2000s. So my shows were SpongeBob, As Told by Ginger, Hey Arnold. I kind of got the ends of those. Hey Arnold, because by the time I started watching it, it was like in 2000, and the 90s shows were kind of ending. But shows like Hey Arnold, I was a big Disney Channel fan. I watched That's So Raven. I watched Proud Family, Lizzie McGuire. So all of those shows I have now introduced, with Disney Plus. Now we have Netflix, all of these Sister, I'm sorry, they just put it on Netflix, and me and my daughter, we're now on the 6th season. So just introducing all of these shows to her, she loves them. Just introducing all of these shows has brought me back in time, and she enjoys them so much. So yeah, introduce your old shows from when you were a kid, and this will bring you guys close. So those were the 4 things that I feel like you can do with your kids, fun things to do with your kids or your child. So definitely give it a try. Your kids will probably like it. Just remember, some of these things that I mentioned, your kids may not even want to give it the time of day. But as long as you try and not get so frustrated, because I know that it can be frustrating when your kids are like, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do. So just try to bond with them as much as possible. A lot of these things that I mentioned about introducing old things that you did as a child, this will all create a bond, and this will be bonding time between you and your child. If you do try any of these things that I mentioned and it worked out for you, let me know. Leave a comment and tell me how it went. Tell me some things that you're doing with your kids or your child during this time to keep them occupied. I would definitely like to hear it. I'm always looking for new things to do with my daughter. So that is it. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for the next video. Bye.